Minnesota regularly tops the charts in voter turnout, and Secretary of State Steve Simon hopes Minnesota will reach #1 this election season. He's joining me in the studio to talk about his Get Out the Vote efforts. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Minnesota has two significant changes this election cycle, and the first that I'd like to talk about is no excuses absentee ballots.
Right.
So how does that work? What's the change?
It's a huge game changer. The old rule before 2014 was if you wanted to vote absentee in Minnesota, you had to sign an oath under penalty of perjury saying that you were either really sick or you were going to be out of town that day. But the legislature decided, when I was still in the legislature in 2013, to get rid of that excuse. The bottom line is now any Minnesotan, for any reason whatsoever, can decide to vote absentee. And there are two primary ways to do that. One is to go and order it online to come to your home, where you can now vote from your couch or kitchen table. You go to mnvotes.org. That's mnvotes.org.
And we'll put that up afterwards.
Yeah, and you can just order it right there. It takes most people just a couple of minutes, and it's done. Or you can vote.
And that's to order the ballot.
That's to order the ballot, the absentee ballot that comes right to your home. Or you can do it the more traditional way and do absentee voting by going to a designated government office, typically a city or a county office. And if you don't know where that is, you can go to mnvotes.org, type in your address, and it'll tell you where to go. So that's new for a presidential election year. Its sort of maiden voyage, so to speak, was 2014, and the last non-presidential, to great effect. There was a big spike in absentee voting. I think we're going to see an even bigger spike this year for a presidential contest, where we typically enjoy even more turnout. So a real potential game changer.
So the other new significant change is that there's early voting, in-person early voting, that will begin on November 1st and lead up to Election Day.
That's right.
How does that work? Do you go to your precinct, your normal precinct place, or do you go to a certain government place until Election Day? How does that work out?
It's the latter. You go to a designated place, usually a city hall or sometimes a county office, depending on where in Minnesota that you live, and you go in. And the difference this year is, as opposed to the old system where when you voted in-person absentee, you had to put your ballot in an envelope, then you put that envelope in another security envelope, and you hand it to someone. And that was a lot of process and a lot of hassle for people on both sides of the counter. It was a lot of hassle for the people counting the ballots and administering the elections, and a lot more hassle for the voters. So the legislature, wisely, this last session decided to get rid of that requirement for the last 7 days. So now when you go in the last 7 days, it's a lot like true early voting would be. You're going in, you're filling out a ballot, and just like on game day, on election day, you're feeding that ballot right into the machine. There's no middleman, middlewoman, or anything. You're feeding it right into the machine for that whole 7-day period before the election.
So there's been an effort really to simplify the voting process, it sounds like.
Right, and it's, like I say, decreased hassle on both sides of that counter.